All right, here we go. This is Eagles Talk on A2D. PY, Rob Brinkman, Les Bowen will be on shortly. Talking about the moves, lack thereof. We got some Dallas Goedert talk, what could happen, what might happen, what's not going to happen. We got it all covered right here on Eagles Talk.
If you love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Hell yeah! Philadelphia!
All right, everybody, welcome in. This is Eagles Talk. NFL offseason. Gearing up, ready to go. Got a lot of moves to talk about. Broadcasting live from the Real Talk Studios per usual. Each and every Monday, we are brought to you by our good friends at Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pies, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. You guys know what to do. Find us on all social media and wherever you get your podcast. So, PY, lackluster start to free agency for the Eagles. I know there's some people out there possibly concerned, possibly asking what's going on, but
Lots of stupid people in the world.
But let's focus on a guy that is still here for now, bringing us to our poll question of the night. Starting tight end Dallas Goedert should be traded by the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't understand the rhyme or reason to trade a guy like that. Trade a guy like Dallas Goedert. From what I understand from his contract, obviously I'm not a salary cap expert or a contract episode expert. They already paid him all his money, so I don't really see what the value is in trading him for a fourth-round pick. I don't get it. I don't know where this came from. So, I mean,
well, it came from his camp. That's where it came from.
So the Eagles should absolutely not trade a guy like Dallas Goedert. I mean, you lost Josh Sweat to the Arizona Cardinals. He was a starter. Milton Williams, good for him, getting all that money from the New England Patriots. $26 million a year.
104.
104, 4 years, 104 it was, right?
Yes.
From the New England Patriots. Good for him. The Eagles were never going to do that for a rotational defensive tackle.
No.
Patriots better hope he can extrapolate his really part-time role here in Philadelphia to a full-time role in New England. Obviously, Zach Bond is back. Saquon Barkley has been extended. Isaiah Rodgers, gone. Darius Slay will be gone. James Bradbury has been released. So it's going to be a new look team next year. You got to shuffle in, find some new hungry dogs. But, I mean, PY, let us know what you think in the comments. I 100% want Dallas Goedert in the mix on this football team next season. He's a great two-way tight end, meaning blocking and pass catching. He's comfortable with Jalen. And I'm just not – I'm not into just making a need out of nowhere so I can have an extra fourth-round draft pick. Like I just don't get that. You don't have to shoot yourself in the foot just to get a fourth-round draft pick.
So I'm not the biggest Dallas Goedert fan. I am the vice president of the Dallas Goedert hate fan club. Okay, the president, his name starts with a J. That's all we'll say. But like I don't hate Dallas Goedert is a solid player. Like he's a very good tight end. He's great in catching. He's great blocking the football. Like his issue with me is always one step forward, two steps back, always. It's like, oh my God, he just had a 40-yard catch down the field. Oh, and he's out for 6 games. Oh my God, he's back and he just had 2 touchdowns. Oh, he's out for 3 weeks. And like stuff like that, like I can understand the Eagles' thought process is he's getting older. This is a very good tight end heavy draft. So I can see where the thought process is, all right, we're going to go out of our way to go get the replacement. Here's the problem with that. When you got rid of Brent Selleck, your replacement was Zach Ertz. When you got rid of Zach Ertz, your replacement was Dallas Goedert. So unless you're guaranteed that your replacement is Grant Calcaterra, I wouldn't do it. I'm not even the biggest Goddard guy, and I would give him a 2-year extension right now. So that way, make the second year not guaranteed. So that way you can go out and draft the guy in the draft this year, whether it's in the first or second, third round, whatever you need to do. So that way you can go do that. I'm not trading for Kyle Pitts. That's a wish factory that people throw.
Is that a rumor? Is that a thing?
No, that's every Philadelphia fan's circle jerk fantasy. Like, throw a penny in a well. Oh my God, is it going to come true this year? Like, I'm just not doing that. Like, the only way maybe I would be willing to trade for Michael Mayer. Like, I like him. I think that's some possibility. So if I'm trading Dallas Goedert for anything, like maybe if I got him, I'd be willing to look at the possibility. And then you go out and get like an Evan Ingram as your backup. But once again, I could be 100% wrong. They could trade Dallas Goedert tomorrow, not draft anyone in the draft, where as far as the tight end position is concerned, because they feel very confident in Grant Calcaterra. I don't feel super confident with him due to the fact that he couldn't block me, but also his concussion issues. He's one concussion away from sitting in the wheelchair the rest of his life. Like, the sad case with that. Like, so there needs to be a plan when it comes to Dallas Goedert. I would not trade Dallas Goedert just to trade him. There needs to be a plan in motion. And if your plan is Michael Mayer, I'm okay with that. If your plan is we're going to draft someone in the first round and then maybe trade him during the draft, sure, okay, maybe we could swing that. Greg Calcaterra is your tight end 1 this year, and then the guy you draft is there next year. But I'm not just trading Dallas Goedert just to trade him, because he's too good of a pass catcher. He's too good as a blocker, and he's just too good of a weapon just to get rid of him. So no.
Why can't you get Michael Mayer or Kyle Pitts and play him next to Dallas Goedert?
You could, but I think the thought process is most likely you get one of those guys to replace Goddard. I don't think they should be going out and replacing him unless it's like with someone you draft, mainly because like you don't know what you're going to get in the draft, and you don't know what Kyle Pitts would even look like here. It's all based on potential. Same thing with Michael Mayer, but like Mayer is young enough to where I'm like, okay, former second round pick, potential there, but like I would be more willing to do that than just say, screw it, bye Dallas Goedert, we're cutting him tomorrow.
It's going to be it's very interesting because they didn't do much today, and it's only the first day. Like, this is going to, with their cap space and the fact that they're picking 32nd in the draft because they won the Super Bowl. This is going to be a slow, drawn out offseason. And like Milton Williams, I'm sad to see him go, but he's not someone you game plan for. Like, you pay a guy $26 million a year, like he needs to be causing opposing offensive coordinators and opposing quarterbacks to be losing sleep heading into the game. Yep. I think he's good, but I don't think he's that good. Same thing with Josh Sweat. Like,
very good player, but I feel like a lot of Eagles fans are just like, I can't believe we let these guys walk. And I said, but that tells me all I need to know. Josh Sweat is a very good player. Milton Williams is a very good player. If they were very great players or exceptional players, Howie would have extended them already. Like, they felt what they felt about Josh Sweat. They were going to cut him last year. Like, they didn't care. They were just like, all right, cool, we're done with the Josh Sweat experiment. And the only reason they kept him is because A, he was willing to restructure, and B, they traded away Hassan Reddick.
We'll get to some comments here. Mike Marshall, would love to have Goddard on the team, but it's impossible to pay everyone. Like, you don't have to pay him. You already paid him. He's just here. John Attic, like, no. If Grant Calcaterra is the starting tight end next year, I think that's not good.
I can't say that because we saw him in spurts this year, and he was very good. he gave you exactly what Dallas was giving you, minus the blocking. Like, if I could have a tight end 2 whose whole job is just to block, and I can have Grant out there catching passes, I'm okay with that.
I don't know. I don't think Grant Calcaterra is that good.
When you're sitting on the bench half the time, like what are you really?
Like Marshall, strong tight end definitely is a factor. I mean, there's two slated to go in the first round almost universally on all these mocks. The kid guy from Penn State, his name's Tyler Warren. He's not going to be there at 32.
Nope.
And there's a kid from Michigan named Colston Loveland who might be there at 32, but he's not as good as Tyler Warren.
They're going to draft that Manning kid that the Patullo knows. And that's probably who there's going to be their tight end in the draft, because they're not drafting in the first round. Like, it doesn't matter what position it is, unless someone like Nolan Smith, who's a top 10 pick, falls to like 25. Like, that's the only reason why they're still in the draft. Because if that didn't happen in 22, like they're out of that first round. They had 3 or 4 trades lined up.
Well, I mean, like, we're worrying about tight end. I think we need to be worrying about cornerback. Big time.
I mean, maybe he's there. Like, this whole situation is all going to be very dependent. And Howie's even said it. He says, like, you're going to need to be patient. You know, you're going to need to invest in younger players. And look where we're at right now. Like, the fact that they didn't re-sign Oren Burks tells me that Nakobe Dean's either going to be back, which is another young guy, or they really believe in Trotter. And like the fact that they let Slay go, they didn't try and re-sign Isaiah Rodgers, tells me they probably really believe in Kelee Ringo. Kelee Ringo right now is younger than Quinyon Mitchell. He's younger right now than Quinyon Mitchell. Like, he's young. Like, they drafted him when he was 21. Like, I would like to have a corner back ahead of him for one more year and then start him next year. But, I mean, I think the plan is, unless they go out and they draft a corner very high, or you go out and you trade for someone, you know, like the Packers are looking to get rid of Alexander. Like, you could go out and you could target one of the corners. You could Denzel Ward in Cleveland. Like, because they're a mess right now. They're going to try and say that if they're in rebuild mode, but they're not. Like, they just signed Myles Garrett. Like I told you last week, they just called his bluff, and he bit like I knew he was going to. Like, there's options, but like at the end of the day, like, this whole offseason is going to be very dependent on what they think of the young guys, because they very well could be heading into next season with Kelee Ringo, with a combination of Nakobe Dean / Jeremiah Trotter, with Jalix Hunt, with Nolan Smith, with Moro Jormo, and a few occasional older pass rushers in the rotation. So, youth movement is where it's at. Most likely.
You think the plan is just youth, draft?
Well,
no veterans.
I'm not saying no veterans. I'm saying they're probably going to go out and they're going to sign a few veterans. They're probably going to sign a veteran corner to compete with Kelee Ringo. They're probably going to sign a veteran pass rusher to compete with Moro Jormo. They're probably going to draft or sign an older linebacker to compete with Axman Jr. / Nakobe Dean whenever he's ready. Those are things that are probably happening. And now it's going to be up to these guys of whether or not they make it. Because look what it was this year. You signed a lot of guys who are free agents, like high money free agents, and they did it. The ones who worked out were the ones who earned it, and the draft picks who played were the ones who earned it. Like, that's how Vic Fangio works. He doesn't give a flying horse poop what your draft stock is. He doesn't care what your contract is. Bryce Huff sat on the bench for most of the season over guys like Moro Jormo and Jalix Hunt. So that should tell you all you need to know in that fashion. If you can play, you can play. If you can't, you can't. Money's not going to matter. Draft stock's not going to matter. If they draft a cornerback in the first round this year, not saying they will, but if they did, and he sucked in camp, they would let Keely play. And if Keely Ringo is better than that guy, Keely Ringo will be your starting corner.
Yeah, Bryce Huff, he had that fat contract and inactive. Healthy scratch for the biggest game, Super Bowl 59 against the Chiefs.
And maybe he turns it around.
He can't get worse. This
is a great example. What the hell is this? Who's a guy on San Francisco that he used to play for us? The name is escaping me.
Hargrave?
Yeah. Javon Hargrave's first season in Philly was atrocious. He had like 3.5 sacks or something awful. And the question was, oh my God, did we bite the bullet on this early? And he had a much better second season. And by the time he hit season 3, he was playing his best football. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen with Bryce Huff, but like, there's a possibility. Like, if he can't play and it's year 2, they're going to get rid of him. So it doesn't matter. They're not afraid to bite the money.
Habib 215. Then we'll bring in Les Bowen for Bowen on the Birds. Hassan Reddick lost money.
Yeah.
Ring. Just a total botch job by him and his people, his agent, his management team.
Dumbass.
He is now on the. I think what do you get? 14 mil from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yep.
Far cry from what he wanted, but let's bring him in. He is one and only Les Bowen for Bowen on the Birds.
The Birds.
What's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
We are just trying to sift through this off season so far. Obviously, nothing is official until the new league year starts on Wednesday. But now we have this legal tampering period. A lot of guys left.
Tons of guys left.
Aren't going to be here. Milton Williams got paid.
Yeah. It's amazing. Everybody likes the players from the Super Bowl team, I guess.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Les, I had to explain to my mom why all the Philly players weren't here anymore. She was very confused. Her big question was, AJ's not gone, right? I said, no, Mom. AJ is still here. It's okay.
Yeah. I kind of wish, Slay isn't officially gone. That's a weird situation.
He's
with
gone.
The post-June.
I don't get it.
Well, they can't actually sign him right now because he isn't actually free. But I guess he's going to sign with the Steelers after June 1. If I were the Eagles, I would make sure that I knew exactly what the Steelers were offering and that I didn't want to pay that.
I don't think they're offering any. I don't think the Eagles are going to be offering anything after the discussions.
They lost Isaiah Rodgers, and I know they're deep at corner, but they're not that deep that they're not give them away.
I just think Slay has sadly played his way out of the city at this point.
Oh, for what he said, nobody cares about that. No, he says things every week. He says silly crap. There are a lot of players that don't like CJ, Gardner. That's not a huge deal, I don't think. I want to correct something I said last week, though. I was under the impression last week I had read something, and I must have misread it. I thought they had another year with Rodgers. I did not think he was definitely going to be leaving. I thought they had some kind of option or something, but nope.
Well, they had 2 years with it. Well, they had 2 years with him because of the gambling situation.
And one of them he sat out. Yeah. But he was the first guy to sign with the Vikings, and it wasn't that much money. But
2 years, $15 million.
Yeah. So it's what we're looking at here. It seems to me, I don't know what you guys have been discussing, but I hope I don't repeat it too much. But they're looking to get a whole bunch of compensatory picks for next year. So not only are they losing guys right now, but they're not really in the market for the top market guys because that would negate the compensatory picks, that they're planning to get next year, which they think they're going to need to reload their roster as they move on down the road.
Yeah, they're looking to get 12 picks next year.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because there are guys that they could use out there. Yes, they're the Super Bowl champions. Yes, they're a great team. Yes, they still have a great roster. But some of these guys, it would be nice to see in an Eagles uniform, but they just aren't
like
going to.
Kyle Juszczyk.
But yeah, there's plenty of guys. But it's we're going to have to sit through this, and they're going to go bargain hunting eventually and get some depth, and then they're going to draft some people. It's going to be kind of excruciating, I think, even with the Super Bowl in the back pocket.
Who would you like them to sign, Les?
Oh, God. At this point, some veteran corner of some sort. But I don't really know who that would be right now. There aren't a lot of real good veteran, which is why Isaiah Rodgers went so fast, I guess. God, I had a whole list of guys, and I don't even know. I'm not entirely sure who has signed today, but
the corners got grabbed.
Yeah. Let's see here. I wouldn't. There's this. We got our poll question about Goddard, which leads you to, if they are going to do something there, they certainly need to sign a free agent tight end. You can't go into this thinking it's going to be Grant Calcaterra and whoever you draft. That doesn't work. So I would look for a tight end in this free agency. I know there's a guy that Bo Wolf mentioned named Harrison Bryant, who's out there.
Oh, for the Browns.
Yeah.
He's okay.
That's what you're gonna. They're not.
I would rather have Evan Ingram, but I see what you're doing. Bargain hunting.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at is bargain hunting here. If they do spend some money, it'll be edge rusher.
I could see them putting together a few guys when it comes to corner, because Louis DiBiase of Locked On Eagles, he put out a list today where it was Asante Samuel, Rasul Douglas, and Kristen Fulton, I think it was. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind having Asante Samuel here.
That would be hilarious.
He was my draft crush last. I was telling everyone, I'm going 2 for 2 in the draft. I'm getting Devontae Smith and I'm getting Asante Samuel Jr.
Asante and Trot Jr. on the same team would be really on the same Eagles team would just be hilarious to me.
Well, also you're getting them after you already got Landon Dickerson. Is funny.
Yeah, but there's that guy. What's it? Ajari, the defensive end.
Azeez Ojulari.
Yeah, that guy. Thank you.
Yeah.
That dude. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him. I don't know what they have to pay him. But I would definitely try to find an edge out there somewhere and draft one. And I don't know if you've put yourself in a position where you got to draft a corner now or not, but you better do something else other than, Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks. That might.
I'm not even entertaining any first round corner just because I just don't think they're going to take one. I don't think they're drafting anyone in the first round. As I said earlier,
unless Well, you either move back or you move up to the top 20. I mean, those are the two things that you do.
For you to do that, there has to be a guy there. You can't just do it to do it.
Right.
There has to be a Nolan Smith there. Otherwise, you're in the same position where you drafted. What the hell? Guys, they traded up for this offensive lineman a few years ago.
Andre Dillard.
Andre Dillard, that's it. He's so forgettable. I can't even remember his name.
Yeah. They only traded up a couple spaces for Andre. I think it was 21 to 19 or something like that. But it did not work out.
Because they didn't do his homework. They didn't do their homework on him. They never expected him to be there.
The thing about trading out of 32 is somebody has to want 32. And there is an intrinsic value to having the 5th-year option. But other than that, I mean, sometimes you try to trade out of 32 and you get almost nothing for it.
Well, you got to look at the quarterback market. Obviously, there's 2 at the top.
That's a good point.
There's 2 at the top. Like, is Jackson Dart going to be there at 32, and maybe the Browns take Travis Hunter at 2, and then they move back in with the Eagles to get a guy like Jackson Dart? That's really your best hope to get something of value.
Yeah.
Which I
the other edge rusher I was trying to think of in my senility, I'll bring this up now. It's Khalil Mack. I forgot about him. Yeah, I would love to see Khalil Mack.
He went back to
he went back to the Chargers, Les.
Oh, really? He's back with the Chargers?
He re-signed for 1 year, $18 million.
Guaranteed.
And Chase Young just re-signed with the Saints.
I didn't want Chase Young anyway. But yeah.
So you got Azeez Ajal.
Well, what's the cap hit on a 1 year, $18 million contract? That's all on the cap, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
I don't get it.
Khalil Mack at age 497 will have an $18 million cap hit. That's
it's possible that the cap space that like they got when they cut him, maybe it's offsetting. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
And they also they ditched Bosa too, so maybe they have money because of that.
Yeah, no, thank you on that one. I would rather sign Vinny Curry and Bo Allen out of retirement.
Yeah. Well, I think Bosa's going to be with his brother or something, but his injury history lately has been horrendous.
So let me ask you about.
They're in full rebuild mode, so he can go rot down there with his brother.
Yeah.
And the Niners, they're being stingy with Purdy. They told him you're not a $50 million quarterback.
No, you're right. He is a $60 million quarterback. You are correct.
I have cold feet about that, and it's going to be real interesting how that plays out because you want to be.
You should. You know what? That's not incorrect. They should pay him $70 million a year.
Now, are you? Because you're a Purdy guy, or because you want to see the?
No, he wants to see the 49ers.
Oh no, I'm Nick Wright in this scenario. I am the least Purdy guy ever.
That's pretty
Purdy
good
guy either. I think he's a game manager who should not be getting.
So how about
top dollar?
A team that I thought was going to be real good last season and kind of wasn't was the Houston Texans.
Yep.
And to me, and I only saw maybe 3 or 4 of their games, but to me, one of the biggest reasons they weren't as good as they should have been was their offensive line.
Yep.
So what did they do today?
They traded Laramie Tunsil.
So I've heard people talk about it today. Like certain people are like, oh, he actually wasn't really good this year. And, and then I've heard other people
he took a bunch of penalties, but his stats were still excellent.
I don't know how I feel about trading all those picks for offensive linemen on the wrong side of 30, but we'll see how
I don't know that I would have done that to get him.
It feels very
I don't
Joshua
know what
Harris
doing. They have a quarterback right now, and they're apparently trying to get him killed. They have their offensive line sucks, and they just traded their best offensive line.
Yep. Maybe they go O-line first 2 rounds.
Maybe so. Yeah.
I mean, I love what the Bears are doing. They're going out of their way to help Caleb Williams. Like, you can't stand up. We're going to get the best.
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't end up like the Bengals.
There's our boy Habib there on YouTube. He wants Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah.
That would be fine with me. Good player. Yeah.
Can compete for the starting spot with Keely Ringo. I'm fine with that.
He's young. He's a cover guy. He makes the so-called
as his dad was.
Business decisions when it comes to tackling, which is fine.
I need him to bring that ego down here.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but when Asante Sr. was here, even in his prime, he was very concerned about the Hall of Fame. Now, I don't think he's going to make the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But he was convinced that he was trying to get himself, pumped for that. And he found out at some point that Paul Domowitch, who was then at the Daily News with me, was the Hall of Fame voter for Philadelphia. So every day when the locker room opened and they let the media in and the 30 or 40 of us came swarming in, Asante would turn around and say, "Where Domowitch at?"
Campaigning for
He
himself.
wanted to put his arm around Paul and say hi.
Yeah. I mean, it's too bad he doesn't play baseball, because if you're decent for any period of
Yeah.
time in baseball, you seem to
Right.
get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
No.
Or basketball. Basketball is more like that than
Basketball is if you average double
Also
digits
hockey,
for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they don't have a real Hall of Fame. Like they have the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of
Right.
Fame. Like
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Baseball
But
just makes
yeah, I
baseball
like
Hall of Fame makes
Asante
me sick.
Jr. I think
Baseball Hall of Fame is probably the toughest Hall of Fame to get into.
I think you're probably right. I kind of disagree with Rob on the baseball. I think it is a tough one.
Yeah, you get Harold Baines in, and
People were
Matt
talking.
Morris in, and
I think a year or
Schilling's
so
not
ago
in.
there was some kind of question about whether Bryce Harper would be a Hall of Famer if his career
First
ended right. I
ballot.
had very serious people telling me, "Oh, I don't know if Bryce Harper would be a Hall." He's been like one of the top 5 players in the game for the last 10 years, but
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I mean, he's
Well,
won
baseball.
2
So the NFL Hall of Fame is really stupid because like people will go out of their way to shove their egos in there. Like Terrell Owens is in the first ballot Hall of Fame, which is a joke. Baseball is the exact same way, to where you'll go out of your way just to be a douche.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Derek Jeter guy, but like there will be someone who probably didn't vote for him one time just because of whatever. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like you just do it just to be a contrarian. Like it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody asked me, we got into a thing somehow. I get involved in all these things online, and I have no idea.
I know you do, Les. I love watching your tweets.
Somebody asked me if Embiid was a Hall of Famer. And so I said,
No.
yeah, he's the MVP. He's a 7-time All-Star. Sure, he's a
Yeah.
Hall of Famer. And somebody else asked, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? And
it doesn't exist in the NBA.
I don't do that. I don't. You're either a Hall of Fame guy or you're not. I don't sit
If
around.
Yao Ming's in the Hall, Embiid's 100% in the Hall.
Yes, absolutely.
You're preaching to the choir on first ballot Hall of Fame. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
who
like,
cares?
okay, he hasn't played a down or a play in 5 years. Not a Hall of Famer. Then the next year, his second year, then all of a sudden he's in.
Well, it depends on who else is eligible and that kind of stuff. I can kind of see that. I mean,
well, football is the only one that caps it.
Yeah, yeah.
Baseball, I've seen guys. You can have one guy, you can have no guys, you can have 10 guys. It doesn't matter. If you get the vote, you're in. Football is the only one that I think it's like 5.
Yeah.
What do they call it?
I think
they want
players.
They want a certain amount of guys each year. They don't want too many quarterbacks. So like next year when it's Eli and Fitz, or Eli and Rivers and Drew Brees, they're not going to put 3 quarterbacks in. Like maybe they'll do 2. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, someone mentioned, I don't know if this is true or not. So Jason Peters didn't actually play last season. He was on the Seahawks practice squad for part of the year. So somebody said that means he and Kelsey will be eligible the same year. Jason Kelsey, obviously. They're not going to elect 2 Eagles offensive linemen to the Hall of Fame the same year, I don't think.
No.
So that's going to be real interesting. But anyway.
But like, why?
Just because that's what they like to do. Because
there's too many, the writers from other cities aren't going to embrace that concept.
No.
And frankly, I don't think if it were 2 Dallas offensive linemen, I don't think, a lot of other people would embrace that concept. I probably would if I was doing it, because I just, I think it's a pretty hefty obligation if you're doing it, and I'm not doing it, but you have to take it very, very seriously and put aside all your prejudices about teams that you like and don't like and all that, and you have to be very fair, I think, in this. But anyway, we kind of got off on a tangent there.
We did, which is good.
How about our poll question? Have we done?
Yes. The Eagles should trade Dallas Goedert. The rumors are swirling. Where they came from, I do not know. Josina Anderson said he is very much available on the trade market, and they would probably get a 4th-round pick back.
Yeah,
I don't understand the point.
I'm not trading him for a 4th-round pick.
Nope, same. I'm good.
I guess it wouldn't even give them cap relief this year, if I'm understanding the situation correctly. It would give them cap relief down the road, like next year.
They're going to have like $60 million next year, so I can kind of see that.
Someone posited that the most likely scenario might be some sort of revised contract or extension.
Yeah.
The Eagles, which makes a lot of sense to me because it's not like
2-year extension.
Again, Grant Calcaterra is a nice player, but Jesus Christ, you're not going to run him out there.
Whoa,
For 17 games. I mean, has he ever done that at any level of football?
No, and the more the guy plays, the more it shows, so to speak.
He's a nice player, but give him his 15 snaps a game, and that's great. But he's not any better than that, I don't think. And he certainly, as a blocker, isn't a guy you can run out there every play.
Bob, I brought that up at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Stuck behind, good player.
Yeah.
And Brock Bowers, who's an unbelievable player.
Yeah.
Notre Dame guy, really good in college. But
I would certainly not trade Dallas Goedert for a 4th-round pick. Especially if it doesn't help you with your cap this year.
No,
I'm not too worried. I mean, I know they think down the road and stuff, but the cap went up 20-some million this year. Do we know how much it's going to go up next year? No, we certainly don't. To start thinking you've got, that you're going to be in this really bad situation next year, I think is kind of, doing what athletes always say you shouldn't do. You focus on what's in front of you a little bit, and not get carried away with what's way down the road.
So Les, what are you looking for? Is this going to be just a mind-numbing offseason because of the position that they're in?
Maybe
we're going to have patience.
Yes.
It might be. I mean, that's what Howie seems to be saying.
He literally told you this in a press conference.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what he said. The draft might be, they've been drafting really, really well the last 3 years. Of course, if you believe that the draft is partly luck, then that would mean that they're due for a clunker. But if you believe they've really hit on that, they have really great personnel people right now, and that they really have it pretty well, locked in, then maybe they can get stuff out of this draft like they did last year. That will be
when you're hitting on your first 3 rounds in 4 straight years. That's not luck. That's just exceptional scouting.
Yeah, teams. Though the Seahawks did that once, more than a decade ago, and then they didn't do it again.
Yeah, they had their one draft class. Which, Wes, do you know what they gave that draft class when they had it?
F.
An F.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Richard Sherman, Bruce Irvin, F.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Was in that draft. Total F from Bleacher Report.
The dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, that's Bleacher Report,
But, gotta love them.
Yeah.
But the draft, the mock drafts, the draft grades, you don't know.
Right.
I love mock drafts. And when I say I love mock drafts, I hate mock drafts.
Oh, I love mock drafts.
I hate them. I hate them.
They're my favorite.
You have no idea.
I hated doing them. Here's why I hated doing
so
them
much.
As a reporter, with the Eagles, I might have some idea of what the thinking process is, who the decision makers are, what they favor, what they don't like. If I'm trying to figure out who the Las Vegas Raiders are going to draft, I just look at a bunch of other mock drafts and come up with something from that. I don't know.
Mock drafts are more
How
fun
the hell
now.
would I know that?
Mock drafts are more fun now because they're closer to being reality than what they were like 10 years ago. We're like, oh my God, are they going to draft that Alabama guy who's projected to go 15? Well, no, they actually drafted the Southern Kentucky kid who was actually playing soccer 2 years ago.
Well, you're right. But here's the problem with mock drafts and all mock drafts. The only way to really do a mock draft is to look at what a team's most obvious needs are going into the draft, right?
Yes.
And that is some part of the equation. But especially for good teams, that's only part of the equation. I guarantee you that if the Eagles are, whatever they do with this first pick, wherever they end up making it, they might be thinking about, hey, well, there's this tight end that looks really good. We'll probably get him. But if a great corner is there in that spot, they'll take the great corner. It has a lot to do with the best player that's on that board at that time. And it isn't always an obvious need. You don't sit there thinking, okay, people say our linebackers aren't very good. So, that's just not. That's part of it, but that's not anywhere near all of it for any team. And that's all we do with mock drafts is look at needs. We don't look at, okay, this GM really loves offensive linemen, and even though they don't have a need for offensive line, it's a good offensive line draft. Very few people do that. And then there's all those trades. Every year there's several trades in the first round. Well, how are you going to figure that in a mock draft?
Yeah, the Browns are going to trade the second pick for
and you can make up trades for your mock draft, but how the hell do you really know who's going to trade with who? People love that stuff, and I think it's a complete waste of time.
John Malmos better change their way of thinking and get a linebacker, even if we have to move up.
Well, they did. They did change their way of thinking.
His name is Zach Bond.
And then they went out. So then
I guess they lost Oren Burks today. So but they can find an Oren Burks somewhere. I'm not too worried about that.
Hey,
and Kobe Dean will play again. It might be middle of next season, but
they also took a first-round linebacker a few years ago. He just also happened to take him the third round.
Yep. I don't know about that. I would not draft a linebacker in the first round unless it was somebody, really incredible.
No.
Well, the draft, this is where you address your needs. If you have a glaring need, this is when you do it in free agency. You got to take the best player available.
Right.
In the draft.
Yeah, the object of free agency is to not go into the draft saying, oh my God, we have to get a such and such in the first round. If you do that,
that's how you miss, and you get Jalen Reagor on your team, and Andre Dillard on your team, and guys like that, just complete stiffs.
Yeah, I'm not just drafting a first-round linebacker just to draft a guy. I'm just not doing that.
Going back to before you guys were born, the Eagles used a high first-round pick on an offensive tackle named Kevin Allen. He was, I think this was the 85 draft, and there were several really good offensive tackles that year, but they all went. I think the Eagles were drafting like 8th or 9th. And the Eagles didn't think all these guys would go before they picked. And sure enough, they did. And so they were left with Kevin Allen, who A, wasn't any good, and B, his career was interrupted by going to prison for rape. So,
Jesus, mother of God.
Whenever people talk about bust first-round picks, that's always going to be number one for me.
Yeah, I guess Big Dom wasn't in the mix.
No, there was no Big Dom. I think Big Dom was probably 10 years old at that point. But
Little Dom.
But it's you just can't go into the draft knowing that unless you've got the first pick or something like that. You have to have multiple scenarios.
One of Andy Reid's first drafts here. They picked a linebacker. I think it was out of Arkansas or Oklahoma.
Quentin Caver.
Terrible player. And he was terrible. But he was jacked and was
He
like the
looked like a great
prototype
player,
guy.
man. That guy with his shirt
He
off,
couldn't
man, he was.
play a lick.
Well, I think
My
I told
favorite
the
bust.
story, didn't I, about how Quentin Caver came to be cut? It was the first year I was covering the Eagles, 2002. It was Caver's second or third year, I guess. He was so bad on special teams. They were getting run backs against them, and they really needed to help the special teams. John Harbaugh was the special teams coach, and he was not one to just sit back and take the fact that they weren't covering very well. So he told Andy Reid, you must cut Quentin Caver and get me a special teams guy, a linebacker who can play special teams. So they cut Quentin Caver, and the Cowboys were trying to get Keith Adams down to their practice squad. So they put Keith Adams on waivers, and the Eagles took him. And Keith Adams played in the Super Bowl in 2004. He wasn't a great player, but he was a hell of a special teams player.
Wasn't he like the magic bullet? Wasn't that like his
They called him
nickname
the
or something
Bullet
like
because
that?
he was a little guy with no neck. Yeah, Jeremiah Trotter called him Bullet. Yeah.
All right, so Les, before we get out of here, like what are we looking for as this free agency period unfolds?
I would love to see an edge. I know they're not, making giant waves, but I really think you have to do something, somebody with some kind of pedigree. The Lions cut Zadarius Smith today, didn't they?
Yesterday, yeah.
Somebody with a pulse who's played the edge before. That would be nice, I think.
And he doesn't count against
that. I don't know what they're going to get out of free agency. I really think the draft and then what's left, there'll be guys cut later. There'll be, contract situations later. There'll be, who knows what, like the first time they ended up with Gardner Johnson, it was right before the season started. That I think it's going to be one of those years where you're going to have to rely on your best players being your best players, and you're not going to have the kind of ridiculous depth that they had last season, because I'm not sure we'll ever see that again, frankly. DeMarcus Lawrence, how would you get DeMarcus?
I don't know how you get DeMarcus Lawrence.
Did the Cowboys cut DeMarcus Lawrence?
Not that I'm aware of.
He's a free agent.
I've been on.
He's a free agent, no?
Is he a free agent?
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent.
I didn't see that, but maybe I'm not really following this the way I used to.
He is on the CBS. He's on here somewhere. He's in the 40s. Yeah, DeMarcus
That
Lawrence.
would just, I don't know. I still have a bad taste in my mouth from the last few Cowboys we signed.
How old is DeMarcus at this point?
Old.
Yeah.
22.
Yeah. His AARP card when it comes to the
Robert Quinn territory here,
Yes.
You don't want to get, we went through that. We went through the guy from Washington that I always thought was a great player against the Eagles. What was that?
I loved him. I thought he was going to be special.
Yeah. And he came here and get a paycheck for a year. It was just
He got 2 sacks in the playoffs against the Bucs, though.
Yeah. It's I don't know about big name guys. I think you look for undervalued guys,
Yes.
the Zach Bonds.
Your Zach Bonds.
Find another guy like that, at some position somewhere. I don't know.
That's what makes me feel a little bit more hopeful, is that Vic Fangio is kind of helping Cowie scout these defensive guys and guys he likes and guys that he has knowledge of. I think the guy's name is Draymond Jones, who used to be on the Broncos with him.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes. Yeah. Somebody like that, you got to hit something like that and then head for the draft and then see and keep your ears, keep everything open after that. I mean, it's a long off season. It really is.
So we're gonna play the long game here in Philadelphia and be patient.
There's not going to be a Saquon type signing.
There's no Saquon coming down the pipe. Right. That's not happening. But I also think it's a little bit more interesting this year is that because of your Orenbergs, because of your Zach Bonds, you kind of have to pay a little bit more attention to these underrated guys because you can look at them and maybe be like, maybe this is this year's Zach Bond. Maybe it's this year's Orenbergs. Maybe
Yeah,
it's this year's
they're
Isaiah
developing
Rodgers.
these guys. There's no doubt about it. The guys are getting better when they come here, and boy, that's a heck of a thing. That's gold.
Yep. Mekhi Becton even.
Yes. And he's not gone yet.
No, not
He
yet.
is not gone yet. I can't imagine they're going to lose 3 of the 4 big 4 that we've been talking about.
My whole thing was, as long as you got Zach Bond, I'm okay with everything else.
Yeah, Bond was my priority as well, but I would certainly not mind having Becton back as well.
If you get Becton at a good price, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
What?
I'm surprised both corners are gone. I'm surprised Slay and Rodgers.
So quickly. That really speaks to A, that these guys are good, and B, that there's not a great corner market this year, free agency. Rodgers getting that kind of, it wasn't really a huge deal, but just that he got it right off the bat like that kind of shows you that. Yeah.
PY, closing thought?
Maybe we'll get something going tomorrow. Maybe there's a trade. Maybe there's a player that we go out and sign.
Well, there was a trade today.
This is just me. I would like Juszczyk. I would like him on this offense. I would love to utilize that special type of fullback. He would add another element to this roster.
He would. Yeah. I don't know about a roster spot for a guy who's just a fullback, but
he's like a legit wide receiver though. Like the way they used him in San Francisco. If you use them similar here, that's a real piece.
Well, if you're going to trade Dallas Goedert, you better have somebody like that who can block. That's for sure.
Yep.
All right. I mean, it'll be tough sledding, I think, the next couple of weeks here on Eagles Talk.
It's going to get on everybody's nerves. It really is.
I think it's going to be. It's going to be. And we're going to need patience. I put off the show sheet today as long as I possibly could. Like, maybe if I wait another hour, like something will happen. That it will just be really juicy. But
they traded Kenny Pickett,
They did. They did. Way to go.
Yes.
Cool. Now the heir apparent, if anything, God forbid, were to happen to Jalen, is touchdown Tanner McKee.
All right. We'll see you in 6 years, Tanner.
And the 3 quarterback is that guy whose last name barely fits on the back of the jersey. Yeah.
Yep. Well, anyway, thank you.
Great being with you guys. Have a good evening.
Great having you.
Of Eagles Talk. Hopefully, we can get sink our teeth into some more offseason stuff as this offseason rolls along. Until then, peace out, everybody.
Yes. Take care.